Hello, so in this video, we're going to talk about string formatting. Okay, so remember our favorite problem that hopefully you have written some code for that we want to get the hour, the minute, and the second from the user, and we want to print it out in this particular format. Okay, and hopefully you probably written something like this. I got rid of some parts that does the input verification, just so that we can focus on what's important for this particular video. So let's say, so this would be probably the code that you wrote. It should work. Try 1, 1, 1, and it prints out, 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 second. It's not exactly what we want yet, but that's where we're going. Now, the first thing that you might notice is that for this line of code, it's actually a little hard to tell what the final output is going to be, because that string, we use string concatenation to put the string together, and but that result in like this entire string is being chopped up in quite a few pieces. Like this actually really kind of reduced the readability of this code, and decreased readability could mean the likelihood of the code being buggy increases. So there is a better way. And a better way is, let me just show you this, is that use a string formatting. And so what we will do actually here is we're going to put a bunch of placeholders for three things, three variables, right? So the placeholder is curly braces. And then after the first one is the hour, the second one is the minute, and the third one is the second. Now that's a placeholder. And then how we want to put that in is we say dot format, the hour, the minute, and the second. Okay, might look a little strange. So let's look at this in a little more detail, what that means. So this is actually your first encounter, I think, in this class to the object-oriented part of Python. So this string here is what's commonly called an object. Okay, it's a thing. That's what an object is. It's pretty generic. Now, the dot format is an action that is performed by or performed on the object. Okay, so this means, in this case, we would like to format the string into something a little slightly different. And notice again, as I was typing this out, there are three placeholders, and format takes three arguments. So the first pair of curly braces is, again, a placeholder, and it will be replaced by the first argument in the format action. Okay, well, actually, it's the placeholder is replaced by the string version of the first argument. So you don't have to explicitly call str parentheses hour. Okay, just putting the hour here is fine. Python will automatically convert it to string for you. And then by the same token, the second placeholder is replaced by the second argument in this inside this format call. And then the same thing for the third argument. So, and that's literally kind of what happens here. That whatever the value is in the first argument gets converted to a string and gets put in the first placeholder. Second one in the second placeholder, third one in the third placeholder. And if we run this, 1, 1, 1, and there, it's the same thing as what we printed out earlier using string concatenation. However, this string here is a lot more readable now. It's because it looks so much like the final output, right? So this is considered more readable code, and it's a better way to put variables inside your string. Okay, that's all good. Okay, but still, it's not what we ultimately want, right? We want, if we put a 1 here, we want it to be 0, 1, and so on. And also, we want the floating point number to have 3 decimal places to represent, milliseconds. Okay, so how do we achieve that? Well, as it turns out, this format, or the string format method, has a very, very powerful mini little language that allows you to describe the formatting of these values. And there are a lot of details, but here is what we need to know for this week and for this week's assignment. So the first thing we want to do is in the first placeholder, I want to specify, hey, I'm going to tell you the format that I want. And in order to start telling it the format that I want, I started with colon inside the curly brace. Okay, so this colon outside of the curly braces, it's going to get printed as it is. But inside the curly brace, it signifies that I'm going to start giving Python a format specification. Okay, and the format specification I will give it is is this 02D, and don't worry, I'm going to explain this letter by letter. Okay, so first let's look at D. D means this value here is an integer. It should be interpreted as an integer. That's what D is. For those of you who actually know C, this is the same as the printf formatting. Okay, so D means integer. And then the number 2 means the width of the string representation of this value. Okay, so the width or the number of character spaces that this value should occupy. Right? Remember, we want a 1 to be printed as 0, 1. We want, say, 12. We print it as 1, 2. Right? So the number of characters in the hour should be 2. Now, the 0, the final little digit here, before the width, before the number 2, means that if the value doesn't occupy the entire width of 2, it can be pre-padded with zeros. So in this case, we are saying, the number 1 should occupy 2 character spaces, but 1 is only just a single digit. It's just a 1. So with a 0 in front, it says, okay, you can put a 0 in front so that it now occupies 2 character spaces. Okay, so let's run this. And I'm going to type 111. And there, we have 0, 1. Now, you should try it on your own and do the same thing for minute. It should be fairly straightforward. Another another 2 things that you actually might want to try just to play around with to see what happens is remove the 0 here and see what happens when the hour is 1 and then when the hour is 12. And then one last thing you should try, or at least another thing that I would like you to try, you can try other things, is that you should change the width to some other numbers like 10 and see how it affects your output. So go ahead, pause the video, give those things a try. Okay, so now that we've formatted the integer parts, what about the seconds? The second is a floating point number. Okay, so let's take it a step at a time. So again, to signify the start of a format specification, I start with a colon inside the braces. And to tell the string formatter that second is a floating point number, I'm going to say F. F stands for float. And then to tell it that I want 3 digits after the decimal point, I'm going to say dot, the decimal point, and 3. All right, let me run this. 1, 1, 1. Okay, so here we go. I now have a floating point number. It prints out 3 digits after the decimal point. Okay, all because I did this. So if you look at the slides, that's basically what it says here. Okay, one more thing though. This is a 1 in the integer part. We want it to be 0, 1. So what do you think we should do? You might think we just want to put 0, 2 here. Well, let's try. That did not work. As a matter of fact, that was the first thing I tried, and it didn't work. So as it turns out, what it is here, the width here, is it doesn't say the width of just the integer part of this float number. It's the width of the entire number. Okay? So what is the width of the entire number? Well, we want the integer part to have 2 digits. The decimal point is 1 character, and then 3 digits after the decimal point. So we actually have a total of 6 characters. So I'm going to change this to 6. And try this again. And there. Now we have a 0 in front of our single digit 1. And I think that's what the slide says here. Okay, and just to complete the entire thing, this should be 0 to D. If I say 1, 1, 1, and this is the format that we want. Okay. So the string formatting mini language is really, like I just said, it's very powerful and it has a lot of details. So if you want a little more information, there's a good articles that I found here. You can click on that, take a look at it. Now, if you want the full spec, go to the Python documentation. So I'm just going to bring this up if it comes up. Here's the string formatting syntax. This is the entire spec. It's very long and has a lot of details. Now, oops, what? Okay, now you are not required to read through the entire spec, understand every single little detail, then remember every single thing. I don't, and I suspect very few people is able to do that. However, you should know enough. I mean, you should understand at least what we just talked about, and you should know enough about a general idea of how it works that when you need to do something, you know where to look, and hopefully, if you read it carefully, you can understand it enough that you can use it in your code. Okay, so the link here is really just for reference. Anyway, so what I've shown you should be enough for you for assignment number 2, in which you get some practice of formatting your numbers. Okay, I believe that's the end of this video.